This is the White Noise Podcast with Andy Munns and Ian Pearson.
Okay, welcome to, I'm not sure if we're calling this the first edition of White Noise, because we've been doing a podcast, but things have changed ever so slightly. And myself and Andy are here for a podcast we are calling White Noise. Great title, we've been told by a few that have seen it so far. And so things have changed a little bit. Andy, you have departed from the club.
I have. Not entirely. I'm still there on match days, but I don't have any responsibilities as such.
You linger like me.
Yeah, we like to hang around like a bad smell. So yes, this is independent of the club, independent of the supporters club. It's just me and you cutting through the noise.
Yeah, that's nice.
I thought about this, look. We're cutting through the noise, trying to get to the heart of what supporters are thinking about what's going on in the club. And this is the first episode, so we've invited a few people on. And we're going to hear from them in a minute, but we're kind of here to give supporters a wider voice rather than just on kind of social media.
Yeah, which is a bit of an echo chamber at times. I think we've got a little bit of a mix of views coming up in the show, which would be great. And like we say, we are, although we do both help the club at times, we are independent. So, we can be... We don't want to be nasty. We are supporters at the end of the day, so being part of the club doesn't really come into it too much. But yeah, it can be a little bit more open than we possibly could have been under the Salisbury FC banner. Yeah,
looking to make it an honest reflection of what the fans are thinking.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, all views are welcome. So if you want to get on in the future, that'd be great. Speaking of which, we're looking for a venue as well. That'd be quite nice, wouldn't it, to get a local pub or a club or whatever with a bit of space.
Stroke Ian's face rather than him being on a screen.
I might have to run away. But yes, anybody local with a bar or whatever interested to have us two sat down there, we'll invite a few supporters down. They're always thirsty. And we could do that. You're going to get plenty of promotion out of it, and we'll chat about you.
So before we get into the chat in, we've got some sad news that's been shared on social media.
Yeah, the sad loss of Shelley Brewer, who has been around the club for a long time. She was a steward at one point as well, and a big supporter of the club. So yeah, very sad to hear the loss of Shelley. So yeah, our thoughts are obviously with her family and friends, and it'll be I'm sure there'll be a minute's silence or applause or whatever we decide to do on Saturday for Shelley. So yeah, really sorry to hear that.
So, without wanting to trample all over the end of your lovely words there, Ian, we've got three guests with us this evening who we'll bring onto screen in a second. We've got Luke Potter, we've got Dom Savage, and we've got Dave Dragg giving their thoughts on the first 9 league games and the cup game of the season so far. We've got to go all the way back to the start of the season, though, so there's quite a lot to get through.
Yeah, we've not been here for a while, have we? So we've not done any form of podcast for a little while. So yeah, we were starting off. Obviously, we had pre-season, which was pre-season. You can't judge too much on that, but hopes were high as we went into the season, and it's a good performance against Hampton and Richmond, where we got a 0-0 draw to start the season, and the hopes were really high then because we thought, that could be a good result. That.
Well, should we talk about those expectations, Dom? With all the signings that were made in the summer, where were your expectations after that?
After the first game, to be honest, you're just breaking into the season. So going away from home, getting a 0-0, looking like they're now actually a team doing quite well. But really, we should have picked up 3 points. We should have finished one of those chances. Tommy Willard looked cracking in that first half before he came off. But, yeah, I don't know, really. I'm just happy to see a team competing. At the moment, I don't believe we're competing.
Okay, we'll come on to that more in a minute then, Dom. Okay. Luke, your expectations going into that Hampton game, where were they? We finished last season by staying up on the last day of the season, and we celebrated that like crazy. But what happened over the summer? Expectations were somewhat shifted.
Yeah, I think with the, like you say, with the new ownership and I went to the, was it the open day where he was answering questions. Fans Forum, that's it, yeah. And, I went there along with, obviously, I'm presuming everyone on this call was there. And, Ali said himself, there's a budget for a mid-table team. And, even Brian answered questions saying exactly the same thing, mid-table, while mixing it with the big boys in games. As well as then you see the player interviews coming in and they're sort of saying similar stuff, even some said like pushing toward playoffs. And like, I wasn't one of those that was thinking, we're rich now, we're gonna, be challenging around the playoffs upwards sort of thing. I was thinking, probably in that middle third of the table we would have been at this point, somewhere between 8th and 16th. Like somewhere along those lines, I thought, that's where
like a Slough or a side like that. Teams that are established in this league and kind of finish in the middle third somewhere regularly.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, we went. I went with my dad and my mate to Hampton, and before the game, we were like, well, it's away from home first day. If we get a draw, then great. And then we were walking out the stadium, going, my God, we should have got 3 points there. But it was still positive that we saw a good performance. Then I wasn't at the Dagenham game because I was away on holiday, but I listened to my mate was there, who was keeping me updated, and again it was like, okay, team just got relegated into the league, big team, just been taken over as well, just signed a former England international that scored at the Euros. It's not a bad point. And then it was thinking, we're onto something here, and never in a million years did I think we'd be in the situation we are currently.
And Dave, for you, were you on cloud nine with all the players coming in and looking forward to a less stressful season?
I think, a less stressful season. I think, Luke summed it up well there in that there was clearly more expectation. Having avoided relegation by the point last year, and Ali coming in, I think the term was comfortable mid-table that was used at that fans forum, and backed up by some of the players we'd already signed by that point, and then more coming in afterwards. You kind of, that comes with the pressure, doesn't it? And I think lots of us on that day said, Dutz had been saying in interviews last year, we could do with a bigger squad. We could do with not relying on low knees. And then you start to see that come to fruition in the players that are coming in, and we've got a bigger squad. They're from a better quality, some of them. They played at a higher level. You naturally have that expectation. But I think it's interesting. You look back to, there was a poll on the supporters Facebook page that I stuck up there. I think it was about the week before 6 o'clock, around where do people think we're going to finish. And I think there were a handful that were kind of top, and a few that were in the playoffs, but the vast majority were that kind of 6th down to 14th. And then there were a couple, bottom 3, bottom 4, but I think that just sort of gives you an indication, doesn't it, as to where the expectations of the masses were. It was almost avoiding relegation by a point last year was the base that you start from, and you're working up from there.
So after those 2 goalless draws, we looked good defensively. We possibly should have scored some goals, especially against Hampton and Dagenham too. And then Bath arrived, and there was a feeling that this was going to be the game where we were going to get our first win, or at least see our first goals. But again, we drew a blank, and Bath did what Bath do, and they ground out a 1-0 win.
They seem to be our bogey team, don't they, Bath? They
they are. Bath are definitely our bogey team. Go on, Luke.
Yeah, they've beaten us 4 times in a row. I think 3 1-0 wins and a 2-1. And I think that was the game I was listening while I was on holiday. I think you guys did that game live, didn't you, on the radio?
We certainly commentated on it. I can't remember who it was. Me and Ian, maybe, I think.
And again, it's I think we had a chance at the end. Was it the keeper? I think had a chance. But I think that was sort of the start of the sort of bad form. Really, where people started to sort of question what was going on. I think like a couple of voices, and then it sort of snowballed from then. I think,
and I think it was at that point that we probably sort of were still fairly hopeful, kind of in terms of keeping it tight at the back, but it was that sort of warning signs of we brought all these attacking players in because it was one after the other coming in through the stuff during the summer. and it's probably after that third game that you start thinking, well, if the firepower that we've got isn't going to turn out to be what we thought it was going to be, we might have a problem here, because you can't stay up on 0-0 draws and a couple of defeats.
No.
And Dave, you bring up the firepower there. Ian, our front line, it's on paper, it's got goals in it.
We got a few injuries, to be fair, to kind of balance things out slightly. But yeah, I mean, I'm just looking down the results there. Was that 5 goals we scored in, 9 games now?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, even with the problems we've got, we do still have, some formidable attacking players which should be fine in the back of the net. I mean, going to Eastbourne on Saturday, I don't want to single out a player, and in fact I won't single out a player. There was several shots that just, I don't know, they just seemed under hit. I don't know, just a little bit lackluster on the power side. And hey, I'm not on that pitch, I don't know what the conditions were like, but just I don't know, there's something wasn't quite right with the shooting boots. The few chances we did have that hit the post were obviously great, but then other than that, there was people getting through at times and taking shots directly at the keeper, and just seems a bit, I don't know, lacking a bit of oomph. It's the simple term to put it, I think, and that seems to have plagued us throughout the season so far.
So obviously Tommy Willard being injured, that game, especially where Hampton, he looked like a player who was going to make things happen for us. Without him in the side and Ollie Bray being in and out of the side, I guess if you're Brian Dutton, you'd argue you can't play your first choice attacking lineup at the moment. But with the players we got in there, with Matty Taylor, Matt Briggs, and the other players around them, with Josh now back in the squad and Noah, there's goals there. So why aren't they coming?
Confidence.
You think it's all confidence?
Well, team morale, confidence cannot be good when you're starting the season how we have. So it's got to affect you.
I thought Briggs did well on the Saturday just gone. He did hit the post. He certainly hit the post once. I can't remember who hit the post the second time. But yeah, I thought he was going down the right side, and sometimes just through utter determination, getting through 3 or 4 players and getting it into the box and getting us some chances. I think I said in commentary, I don't like singling out players, as you know, but no, I just didn't quite seem. It was a few games ago, I can't remember which one it was, with you, Andy, we were commentating. I said, oh my goodness, I think it might have been his first start, I can't remember, but his pace was ridiculous, and I didn't quite see that on Saturday. But yeah, he did kind of make his way into the game, but he didn't show any of that electric pace, which made my jaw drop a few games back, if you remember it.
I think at Worthing he was chasing everything. He was working his socks off,
and he was leaving players for dead.
Yeah, and you would have thought with some of the other players being brought in, we wouldn't be relying on Noah Coppin necessarily as much for goals, or Josh Hedges now he's returned. What have we made of Hedgie since he's returned?
I've got. I think he's desperate to make it work. A lot of what's been going on recently, it feels like he's desperate to make something happen. There's been flashes of what he was when he was with us last, and at his best. He's taking players on, he's going past players, but then in that desperation, I think to make something happen and to kind of drag a goal from somewhere. Personally, I feel that it's just maybe 1 or 2 touches too many on his own, and he's trying to make something happen on his own. Not every occasion, but there were a few times on Saturday when flashes of him getting back to his best. But whether it's through other players not then knowing it doesn't feel like there's a unit there, and so therefore he's having to make it happen. There were opportunities where if there'd have been someone for him to lay it off to, maybe he would have done. But I think in the absence of anyone else, he's trying to force it a little bit, and I think that's sort of maybe referred to this in his post-match interview on Saturday about, some of them overthinking it a little bit and perhaps overcomplicating it a little bit. And, it almost needs to be a bit back to basics. And I don't know whether it's, as the tension and the pressure sort of ratchets up and, we're going one more game without a result and another game without a result. It's that kind of, thinking too much maybe.
Yeah, it was disjointed, wasn't it, at the front? And especially it was apparent on Saturday, I've got to say.
And that's not the first time that could be said this season. I think that cohesion as a group up front, it's been quite telling at times. People have made runs that have kind of not been found or seen or even aware that they're being made sometimes. And where we sit up in the commentary box, especially at the Ray Mac, we're quite privileged that we get to see the pitch the way we do with that position. And often you see runs and the ball's not going that way, or we turn out and go a different way, and sometimes it just feels laboured. Would that be fair to say, Dom?
I think that's very fair. I would also say, with the setup we've got at the moment, we've got a lot more options, and it doesn't seem like we've got any consistency of what options are being used, so they're not getting that time together on the pitch to work together and know where the runs are coming from. I don't know, is that part of our problem?
You mean chopping and changing the starting lineup and not having, giving the same 11 a go? And obviously injuries and circumstance will sometimes prevent that, but you can have a core that are together more often than not.
I think so. I think that's very fair. If you had the same, even just like a core 3 or 4 out of the 5 attacking of players, then they will get the passing going together and where the runs are going to be and who's going to be making what runs. And I just don't think we've seen that.
I think as well, it's, and there'll be reasons why we're not maybe getting as much information. I think sometimes we don't know. You look at the starting lineup on Saturday. You've got no Josh Keir, no Jordan Ngalo, no Mike Atkinson, who have started. We don't get a huge amount of updates. So were they not fit? Had they had a knock against Lavi, which might explain why they're not starting. But I think that's been a frustration as well. Is you kind of don't know what the thinking is behind that. Have they just been dropped because they're out of favour, or is there a knock and actually we've had to do something different? And I think sometimes as a fan you don't get every bit of information, and therefore you kind of look at a lineup and go, is that a reason, or were we forced into it? Because I think the front 3 on Saturday, we were always going to have to start with those front 3 because, or 3 or 4 if you include Briggsy out there as well, and Josh and Noah and Matt Taylor. But I think some of the other changes that maybe lead to the creation of chances, it's a little bit confusing sometimes as to why we've changed things.
Do you think it was confusing as well that in the Tunbridge game? I remember seeing the lineup and looking at the comment, and we had a very, very defensive team. There wasn't many attacking players in that, and then that was shown at half time, where I think he made 3 substitutions. And then I wasn't at the game, the Eastbourne game, but then I saw the lineup for that one and thought, okay, well, we've got, like you said, Briggs, Taylor, Hedges, Coppin, all in the start, and it was the complete opposite. It was wow, that's a hell of a front 4 effectively that we're playing. It was completely the opposite to Tunbridge, where I thought, God, how many defensive players have we got on the pitch? And and then it was proven right when he made the 3 subs.
It's hard to know. Brian's very much a manager who keeps his cards very much close to his chest when it comes to players' availability, mainly because he doesn't want opposition managers and coaches to know who he's got and what he's able to do. But I get your point, Dave. Supporters kind of want to know, not necessarily need to know, but they want to know why decisions are made. And I guess you're never going to always get that information.
No.
And there's rarely a pre-match interview, I think, and certainly not close to kick-off, so you never kind of find out any kind of fine details like that. But I've obviously worked at Salisbury FC under 2 managers, and they were both very secretive over who was fit and who wasn't, and that's a tactic, that's a ploy. They don't want to give too much information away, and get these supporters in the dark sometimes, but also leaves, opposition managers of the next 2 or 3 games also in the dark. They don't quite know who's going to be facing them, how to plan for it. But yeah, it's a balancing act, to be fair.
I guess it was more kind of in response to Dom's point around, some of that chopping and changing might be enforced, and we'd never know.
Yeah. And I'm sure much of it is. Now, I'm kind of going to skip over the Hornchurch and Horsham games.
Please do.
And go to Worthing, mainly because I don't think there's a lot to discuss in those games that we haven't already chatted about. Now, the Worthing game, I don't think we played that badly at Worthing. I thought there was certainly effort there. There was application. We were just met by, in phases, a Worthing side who were very good. And
I thought Worthing were great. They were a great team, actually. But in patches we weren't great. We were a little bit poor at times, and Worthing outclassed us. But it was pretty much an end-to-end game. You can always tell how entertaining a game is because poor Andy stood next to me doing commentary, doesn't get a break, and I'm there trying to chip in and say stuff and do my stupid silly bits, and I can't. So I've got all these jokes kind of going on in my head, and I never get to them. So yeah, it was an entertaining game. As disappointing as it was with the result and how it went, but I did find it a really entertaining game, and we didn't actually want it to stop, did we, Andy? We really enjoyed that in the commentary box.
I know you were there, Dave. I'm not sure about Dom and Luke on Worthing, whether you went. You were there, were you, Dom? This is a problem because where we commentate from at Worthing, we're essentially in the middle of that large terrace opposite the main stand, and there's no away supporters near us, so we don't know who's there. Dom, what were your thoughts on that game?
Well, I actually thought at half-time we played quite well the first half. Like you say, entertaining game, end-to-end. Unfortunately, go in 2-0 down, 2 late goals in the first half. But I would disagree a little bit in the second half. Even though it was still end-to-end, I just couldn't see us scoring. Even when we got up into the box, I just couldn't see. I just didn't feel it. I don't know if it was a negativity around me or whatever. I just didn't feel like it was ever going to come.
Yeah, that's fair.
And was that from what we've discussed before, that lack of cohesion up front, or was it just going to be one of those days for us?
Yeah, well, it ended up being one of those days that we didn't find the back of the net. Even Matty Taylor trying to, like a back heel, to knock it in the bottom corner. Like, they don't come off that often. You've got a defender behind you. It just didn't feel like anything was working. And it got more and more frustrating as the game went on.
Was that? I can't quite remember the entire second half. You're right, we weren't quite as strong in the second half. Like I said, there was a very good Worthing side, especially in the second half. But was that the game? Was it the last kind of 15 minutes where didn't we put on a bit of pressure and try and go for it? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. And the ball.
Andy will tell you, my memory's terrible.
Yeah. No. We saw plenty of the ball again, but it's that final third where kind of those moments don't seem to come off or don't seem to happen.
I know you said that you wanted to skip over the Hornchurch game, but I actually would say the second half of that game, even when we went down to 10 men, still being a goal, I felt like we were creating chances and could potentially put one away, and we did. And
to be fair, you are right. Having come back and being a man down, we did look the more likely to win that game. Hornchurch looked like the side that's at the top of the league first half.
For me, the 2 best performances was the Richmond game and the second half of the Hornchurch match.
Do we think that second half against Hornchurch in that 3-3 draw, do you think the pressure had gone so the players played with a bit more freedom?
Yeah, 100%. You're 3-1 down at half time, and then we got about the 3-2, and you go down to 10 men. And again, there's even less pressure because you're down to 10 men. You're a goal behind. Like, no one's expecting you, to get a point, and we still managed to do it. And again, that was another game where I thought, okay, first half shocking, but second half, there's something to go on there.
Yeah, fair point. I was completely blanked the remarkable result out of my head for some reason. I don't know why. I commentated on it. I should remember.
I was listening to your commentary, Andy, and it was very exciting. I've got to tell you.
It was exciting, but kind of, I think I'd filed it in my mind that it was just a bad performance from us, especially as it was first half. But second half, I've forgotten. We played with freedom and we tacked the goal. And there was a great crowd at the ground, as there has been for most of the home games so far this season. And I don't understand why we can't. Where this? I don't understand where the pressure came from initially. I now understand where the pressure's coming from, both on the management and the players. With plenty of chats online, maybe from a vocal minority. I don't know. It's really hard to tell sometimes, isn't it? Because those who are, I wouldn't say happy, but not in the position where they're calling for the manager to lose his job,
have gone quiet.
They go quite quiet.
They have gone quiet. That's right. And so if it is a noisy minority, or who knows, it's a lot louder because there's nobody else kind of pushing back at the minute, is there?
I was about to say, I mean, it wasn't actually that long ago. Me and Ian were, we had a sort of, a constructive debate about retained lists, and that feels like a million years ago now since what's been on the Facebook supporters page, and jokes about goalkeepers and stuff. That feels so long ago now. Like you said, maybe the noise has been getting louder, obviously, as the results haven't been coming in. But even on the opposite way, like when we beat Laverstock, and I felt like there was someone put a needless comment on there going, "Oh, where's all the done out brigade now?" And I thought that's just another status or post that's gonna incite just arguments again. I just felt it was so needless from the other side of it. If you know what I mean, obviously there's a big side of Dutton out posts on there, maybe from a small group, but when that post was from someone that obviously wants Dutton to be in, I was like, oh, here we go. And that's what
sounds like it's magnifying society as a whole at the minute, Luke.
Absolutely, 100%.
Let's not go down the politics line. Brian said in his post-match interview on Saturday that every team has a blip in the season, and he said we're having ours now. Do we?
It's not.
Dom, you shook your head immediately. You're not on board with that.
No, it's not a blip. 9 games in, 5 points. That's not a blip, in my opinion.
And I'm with you, Dom, because I know that again, some people are trying to bring in the end of the sort of final quarter to a third of last season, and for me, I'm not including that because we effectively had a squad of about 13, and then we were putting, Theo Lewis. It was the joke between me and my mate: is Theo Lewis going to be on the bench today? Because he was on the bench nearly every game, and then near the end of the season, Callum Hart and Brian Dutton were both on the bench. So I think it'd be a bit harsh to bring in last season's results because they were working with a shoestring budget, where this year, like you say, that squad we're looking at and where the players have come from, I like Brian. I think he's a nice guy, and there's something about having an ex-player in charge which gets them a bit of extra credit in the bank. You really want it to work for them. But we're 2 league games off being caught away through the season, and unfortunately that credit is running out fast. And we're all not naive. We know football is a results-driven business, and at some point a decision will have to be made if it doesn't improve, which it will make me sad on one side because I really like him. I went to Western last year and he was kind enough to give me 10 minutes of his time just talking on the sideline, and I think that showed the class of who he is. But at the other side, if he is sacked, I won't be surprised, and I will we'll be gutted, but it would be on to supporting whoever is given the job, because like you say, if we're a core way through the season and no wins, that's a big uphill battle. And you saw last year, was it St Albans? They had a shocking start, and I think their sort of second half of the season was unbelievable, but they still ended up going down. So it just shows how hard it is if you put yourself in that position.
So before I ask Dave whether it's a blip or not, if it's not a blip, Luke and Dom, what is it?
It's 33 league matches in 2025 with 4 wins, 27 points from 99. I don't.
So Dom is joining the 2 seasons together, Luke.
I get it. I do get it, because it's it wasn't great at the end of last year, but obviously I think people can also understand.
You're caveating that though.
that it was a very small squad, and he ended up managed to stay up. But even if you don't take in last season, it's been an absolute shocking start.
It's even worse.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. You can't sugarcoat it, and like I said, unless Ali comes out and says, Brian's my man, accept it for the whole season, and everyone sort of has a moan to start off with, and then we're all sort of like, fine, but we know he's staying. But you're always going to have this noise if the results don't improve.
The worst curse a manager can have, the confidence of the chairman. So, Dave, blip or fundamental problems?
Well, yeah. When how do you define blip, and when does a blip become relegation form? I think I'm probably in a place where if it's a blip, it's the longest allowable blip that you can have, because you've got to start seeing a turn of a corner at some point. As Luke said there, whether it be St Albans, whether it be Aveley, whether it be Weymouth last year, we're now, I think, 3 points from safety. You get to a point where you're 6, 7, 8 points from safety. There is no side at this level that will find it easy to win 3 games on the bounce, 4 games on the bounce. You even look at, the likes of Dorking, the likes of Torquay, those were big budgets, those were full-time squads. And, you get 6, 7, 8 points behind that line. You got to win 3 just to catch up with that line, with nobody else winning any. So I think I'm in a place where it could just about be called a blip now. And I think, Brian can probably get away with that at the interview from the weekend. I think if it goes on much longer, it isn't a blip. And you need to start seeing it's not just results, is it? It's that cohesion. It's those chances being taken. I guess if we stepped forward as much as we did from Tonbridge to Eastbourne, if we step forward that amount again to this weekend, and then step forward that amount again to Torquay, by the time you hit Torquay, you might be able to say, well, it's improved that much that we could potentially put that behind us. But you've got to see that improvement kind of consistently to come out of a blip, rather than just a half of a better performance and then we're back to that. Otherwise, what we're seeing week in, week out becomes the norm, and something needs to change. And it's not just a blip. I don't know whether that is an actual definitive answer. Is it a blip or not? I'd say possibly still just about, but.
And like you said, like the games against like the likes of Torquay and Dorking. I know the Dorking games and FA Cup game, but then we have them again at the start of November. Like the games against like Torquay and Dorking, like at the start of the year, you're taking a point against those teams, because they're the big boys of the league. Would
you have said that for Eastbourne as well, though? They're a full-time side, and we got a point off them at the weekend.
Yeah, and their position then comes into effect. But you look at Torquay and Dorking; they're both in the playoffs at the moment. But we're getting to the point now where points won't be enough. We would then need wins, and that's when the extra pressure then piles up.
So to turn it around a little bit, with the Eastbourne game, we didn't play badly. Again, though, we didn't score. Is it just that missing piece of scoring goals, which will relieve some of the pressure on the rest of the team? If, for example, we were to take the lead against Dorking on Saturday in the first 10 minutes and then add a second, kind of without conceding with 20 minutes on the clock, do you think we play more freely? Do you think some of that pressure would dissipate quite quickly?
It would depend, I guess, on the instruction, because we've not been in that position all season, so we don't know what Dutz is going to do with the current squad that he's got and the current players available. Should we find ourselves in that position, it could be that, given the fact that we've not had a win other than the Lavey game, we get into that position, you're 2-0 up, 20-25 minutes in. It's the mindset, what we have, we hold, and we then sit back, because we know historically against particularly sides like Dorking and then the better sides in the league, you struggle to do that. You struggle to do that for 40, 50, 60 minutes against sides like that, because they will find a way through. I guess you'd have to put us in that position and see what Dutz does, because if he takes Matty Taylor off and puts Jordan Ngallo on at 2-0 up after half an hour, then maybe we wouldn't play more freely and go after and score more. I don't know what the other guys think, but
and you say that in a very deliberate way, Dave, about taking Matty Teller off and bringing Jordan Ingalo on, which is exactly what he did on Saturday. When there was potential there to go and score a goal and take 3 points.
Yeah. Did it come across as that deliberate?
Yes. Your thoughts on that particular substitution, Dom, and the way that kind of made supporters feel about the way the game was going?
I think it's very negative. I think it's very Southgatey. England fans at tournaments, like, you've got to go and win, especially in the position we're in. It's almost like a cup game for him. We've got to go and win matches. And look, the Bath game, we're 1-0 down. We put the goalkeeper up. Brilliant. You're trying to go get something. I don't think bringing on defensive players, taking off attacking players, is the right thing to be doing when we're down. You're almost better off trying to lose a game if you're going to. The chance of them winning. The 3 points is better than the 1.
It's better winning 1 game out of 3 than drawing
100%. Yeah, 100%. Got to, also, you get that monkey off his back if he goes and gets that win.
I was thinking the same thing, like you said about the Southgate comment, is that there are some similarities between the two, where again, Southgate, ex-England player, even if people didn't like his style of management, you just wanted him to do so well because of the history behind it. And same
100%.
Brian Dutton, ex-player, got us promoted, kept us up. You just really want it to work for him. But at some point, it's a results-driven business, and it'll be sad if it happens. But that's the nature of the beast.
That kind of leads me on to my next question: is what sort of chairman do we think Ali is, and Ali will be, when it comes to giving managers time?
I think, well, I'll as I was met by silence, I'll dive in there quickly. Hey, we don't know how Ali plans to work things. He might be, sharpening his axe as we speak. But I mean, for me, he's obviously he's given that's a chance to reshuffle the pack, bringing in Harry Lee and Harry Tustin, who both did very well on Saturday as well. So there's good signs there. But I would say that's a sign that he's been given more of a chance. And, some of the things you guys were saying when we were talking about the blip there were a bit scary, points off safety, etc. And once that drifts, it is, that is a bit scary, I've got to be honest. But yeah, I think because we had that big turnover obviously in the summer, hasn't necessarily, or isn't working out necessarily. But yeah, I think obviously with these loanee signings coming in, and there's rumours there's going to be a departure or two, and maybe we'll see a shuffle pack. Which, if he's being allowed to do that, then I would guess he's been given time.
You talk about potential departures. We've already seen one leave on loan, Owen Dorr.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I was a little shocked, I've got to be honest, but yeah, I'll hand that over to the floor.
Yeah, likewise. I think you look at the games that Owen's played this year. They've arguably been those where we have looked reasonably tight at the back. The earlier games in the season, and I think. At the end of the day, Dutz is there. Dutz makes the decisions, and Dutz needs to look at, if things aren't working and we're not getting the results, regardless of whether we've looked tight at the back, if it's not working, something needs to change. If you keep doing the same thing, then you may well get the same result. So he's obviously had a look at it and made a decision. I think it's a little strange to see one of our own players that certainly from an outsider looking in's point of view, seems to have done pretty well in those games, and then we're bringing in loanees at the back, where it was said last year we don't want to rely, or said when the takeover happened, we don't want to be relying on loanees. We've now got more loanees. I mean, I think we're up to it's either three, is it three, but one's dual registered, so it probably doesn't count as a loan. But you're already sort of halfway towards that limit that you can have in the side, which I think we'd all agree last year was a challenge when you get lots of young lads on loan from elsewhere to get game time, when we had the option there to have one of our own, and from what I understand, he was the first player to be offered a contract last year for this year. Clearly something's changed quite quickly into the season to kind of mean that he's gone out. So yeah,
we don't know what's happened there. Obviously, there could be something that's happened behind the scenes. I'm not. I have no information on that, so I'm not starting any rumours or anything. These things do happen, obviously, in football, and that can be the reason why at times. But yeah, it's
he was
or it could just be just doesn't.
Tunbridge, though, wasn't he? Played left wing back, hauled off at half time.
Was the writing on the wall at that point for him? Like, would there be a scapegoat?
I've seen it on social media that people were saying, why was he played there? We've got other options to play at left wing back. I'm one of Josh Summerson's biggest fans. I don't think he's a natural left wing back. I think he's a good left back and a good left-sided centre back, but I don't think he's an answer for left wing back. Tom Cove's in the squad, who is an attacking left-sided player who can also play defensively. And now we've got a new player in who can play in that position. It's
going back to the
do we know what our best formation is? That is another question, I suppose.
Yeah. So just to quickly go back to the loanee thing as well, because at the fans forum, because I was the one that asked, referenced the link between Brian Dutton and Darryl Clark, and the potential to tap into maybe some Bristol Rovers loanees, and like you said, it was very much met with, well, he's a friend and there's a possibility, but we don't want to go down that road. And already, I don't know if it's just, like you say, the panicking of the bad start that we then brought in some loanees, which, if they're good loanees, I'm not against these good young players coming in, but it's, again, going against all what was said. But things change if there's if the situation changes.
Is it potentially that the loanees can be used, I guess, to bridge a gap if you've got to get some players out, to free up the budget to be able to bring some more permanent players in. You don't want to be letting those players go and then not having anything there. Do you kind of bridge it with a loan potentially? I guess we're not going to know how. Yeah, if these loanees are sort of extended and we're relying on them up till Christmas and beyond, then it's a slightly different story than if they're in for a month and we've had a shuffle of the squad and they've sort of seen us through a bit of a reshaping of the squad period, I guess.
Two-part question for Dom then. What do you think of Owen Dorr going out? And secondly, who do you think might join him?
Well, I thought it was a shame that that Owen has been put out on loan, especially to Paul. But who's going to join him?
Well, if Dave's speculation's right that we've got loans in on a short term to bridge the gap while we try and get some players out the door, who do you think might be going with Owen and moving out the door? Pardon the pun.
Well, to be fair, you mentioned earlier Tom Cove. Not seen a great deal of him. And like you say, he wasn't started when Owen played at left wing back. So
he's on your list?
No, he's not on my list.
He's not on your list.
I'm not sure anyone else. Personally, I don't.
Can I rephrase that question then?
Yeah, go on.
Is there anyone who's disappointed you so far this season?
Yeah, Matty Taylor.
Okay, expand.
I think from stepping down several divisions to play in the National League South, I expected more, maybe wrongly. I was expecting more leadership from him in the middle, and I've not really seen that from him. Yeah, he would be my disappointment of the season so far.
And we'll spread that across all of you.
I can't disagree. With Dom. And again, I it's one of those things. It's uncomfortable to criticise individuals, and I know, Ian, you say you don't single out individuals in commentary and things like that. It is really hard, but because chances are we're a small club, and people you talk about are probably going to read it, see it, watch it. But I guess Matty Taylor was probably made out he was he was a marquee signing. I think with Tom Davis as well, coming down the levels, I think he was probably also badged as a bit of a marquee signing, but certainly people love goals, don't they? And whereas our problem has been goals, and actually that level of going back to expectation about overall league performance, I think expectation around individual player performance, you'd probably, people would have probably been saying, well, who's going to be our top scorer this season? Even if he didn't get masses of game time, you'd probably had Matty Taylor fairly high on that list, and he's not scored in the league at all this season. I don't think, has he? Unless it was one of the ones when I was on holiday. I don't think he scored a league goal. We're 9 league games in. If you're talking about biggest baby disappointment or not met the expectations, it's probably there.
I think it's that led into a false sense of security as well, because at the Hampton game, even though Matty Taylor didn't score, I was watching him and some of the runs he was trying to make and stuff. I was like, yeah, you can tell this guy's a football league player, or he was a football league player, and there's some, I know he's the later part of his career, but there's some potential here for us that he could bang in a lot of goals, and for whatever reason, it's just not happened. If it's down to him personally with his own personal performances, or he might say he's not getting the service.
I mean, what I will say, I was genuinely excited having seen, like you, Luke. You look at some of the touches, in pre-season and also at the Hampton game. You're sort of thinking. I was really hopeful of an Ollie Bray, Matty Taylor kind of combo in terms of maybe because you see some of the friendlies, Ollie going back and winning the ball in midfield, but then also obviously he's got that physical presence, and you play balls into him, and if he can then knock them down for Matty to just apply the finish. That's kind of what I expected. So maybe some of that sort of disappointment is down to systems and opportunities had to kind of play to his strengths with Ollie not being around. But either way,
I agree, because even if you took Taylor out and put Higgs in, you could have Bray and Higgs. It's that big man, little man, and I know sort of direct football's coming back into fashion now. So maybe that was an idea which hasn't been able to happen because of Bray being injured, and we've not really got anyone else that can take that spot.
Tricky, isn't it? Tricky. If only it was easy being a football manager, right?
We'd all do it.
Yeah, we would all be doing it. Right. Let's look at some positive things. FA Cup, we did progress. We progressed through against Laverstock. First half, I thought, was a really good performance. We should talk less about the second half, which Liam has reminded me on WhatsApp several times that they won. Dorking, a whole different challenge to the one presented by Laverstock, but we have them at home. It's the FA Cup, and it's Salisbury. Funny things happen. Could this be potentially
big time
the springboard for the start of our season getting going?
Yeah, big time underdog. So like you say, stranger things have happened, and this is the FA Cup. It's the magic of the FA Cup. Look, I think we'd all be surprised if we're in the hat on Monday, let's be honest, but that might actually go in our favour, to be fair. No expectations, hopefully a little bit of freedom, and players can maybe don't want them to relax. I want them to be working hard, but just kind of cast it all to one side. Hopefully, get a good crowd and get behind them, and if we can get anywhere near what we got on that great day when Laverstock came to town, that was a fantastic celebration of Salisbury football. I thought they enjoyed it, we enjoyed it, and obviously we were lucky enough to go through that round. But I think we'll all be surprised if we do make it through. But we're supporters, and we'll all be there praying for it on Saturday afternoon, won't we?
So what do we think our chances are on Saturday? We'll start with Luke. The shake of the head says it all.
I'm sorry. I'm not. I like to think I'm not a negative person. I try to be, but I just can't see a result. You're right. It's the magic of the cup, and these things happen. Not even in different cup competitions. We saw bloody Grimsby knock out Man United. So and we're in the same league as Dorking, where there was about a 3 league gap between them two. So. We always have a chance. We don't know what sort of side Mark White will play as well if he might rest a couple of players, and that might, we'll go full strength. He might go full strength, but yeah, we got a chance. But I like Ian said, I'd be surprised if our name was in the hat on Monday. I really would. And for me, as much as a cup run would be amazing, I would rather, if it was a choice of winning one or the other, I'd rather win the Torquay game, because the league, where we are in the league, is the bread and butter, and we desperately need.
Desperate for it, yeah.
Yeah.
Dom, you're nodding away with that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Luke. The win against Torquay is much more important than Saturday.
And Dave?
I love the FA Cup, and my heart always rules my head when it comes to cup games. Every time we have an FA Cup game, I wake up in the morning going, it's going to be one of those special days. It's going to be an incredible game. We're going to see fantastic football. We're going to come away celebrating like, nothing else. So I'll wake up Saturday morning and I'll believe we're going to win. And you can probably check my prediction online, and it will probably be a win. But I'm going to go sit on the fence now and say we're going to be going to Dorking next Tuesday for a replay.
Ooh.
I better book some time off work.
But not full negativity. You sat on that fence again.
Well, I thought, in fairness, a draw at home to Dorking, admittedly, we'd have to go there on a Tuesday night, which is not the greatest thing in the world, but surely, a draw at home to Dorking in the Cup it's not sitting on the fence. Hopefully, that's quite positive.
With bearing what Luke and Dom have just said, and the league being the bread and butter, if that does transpire and we're at Dorking on Tuesday, does that then affect the squad and the team that you put out on the pitch, because you've got Torquay coming on the Saturday afterwards, and you're going to want your players fresh for it?
Do what Farnborough did in the Hampshire Cup and put the fans out.
Yeah, I'll play.
Yeah, Dom's got form. Dom scored on the Raymack pitch before.
Thank you.
I'll go in goal. I'll fill most of it.
Didn't Torquay did they lose to Tottenham as well?
They did lose to Tottenham, yeah. So
that's the thing. They got
3 week.
Yeah, so if we end up having to play Dorking twice in 3-4 days, and then had a game, that's like, oh god, like.
And then playing one of the arguably best resource sides in the league.
I mean, that's the thing, is that the FA Cup is worth a lot of money if we can get through that next round. So, I can't see any team sacrificing that for a half a chance of getting a point against Torquay. So, we got to go for it.
I really hope that we do obviously beat Torquay and do get into the next round, because obviously that's when the National League sides come in. There are some big teams in the National League, even to get drawn away against a big, even a Yeovil. Could you imagine if Yeovil?
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Oh my god! But or we drew.
Would have been better if Danny Webb was still there.
Well, it's rudderless Yeovil at the minute.
Yeah, but even if we even if we somehow beat Dorking and got a winnable game in the next round and got to the first round, then then you've got the likes of like Cardiff that you could get. I completely hope we do that, because, like you say, the money aspect and the media coverage, etc., it's all that. That's what I want. But realistically, is it going to happen? I can't see it, but I really hope I'm wrong. I really do, because we need a win. Any win in any competition would do the side and Dutton all the world of good.
Yeah, it might kickstart the season.
Yeah, exactly.
But equally, then you might have an issue of game congestion.
The FA Cup, Tom. You got to embrace the FA Cup. Go as far as you can in it.
We're not going to win it.
Oh, nothing else matters.
I know, but
First round excitement.
Fantastic was the day out for those who've been to the games against Nottingham Forest, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, Grimsby. Those games, and even the York game, they've lived long in the memories of many supporters. There's something magical about it.
In any cup competition, because I did Sheffield United away all those years ago, and even just to score a goal against them, I just remember the end erupting, and we were already 3-0 down at that point. And even in other cup competitions, I remember going to Barrow in the semi-final second leg of the FA Trophy. Just that dream of we could go to Wembley here. and then that's a long 7-8 hours back after we lost. But that's what you sign up for, you know. And yeah, I'm all for cup competitions and having good cup runs. It's just obviously the situation we're in. It's really hard to see, but I really hope it happens. Let's hope we beat Dorking and it kickstarts the season.
Well, I think that's a nice positive way to end. I was going to talk about some of the stuff that's going on around the club, but I think we've probably talked enough. So thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Really interesting opinions there, Ian.
Yes, well, yeah, I think it was all fairly fair and echoing some of the things that we've read on supporters pages and various other pages online. So yeah, all good. Great to hear from the guys. And yeah, anybody else fancies getting involved in the future, do give us a shout. And of course, if Dave, Dom, or Luke fancy coming back on, we don't mind having regulars as well, do we?
Good start with those three guests, all good talkers, which is a great way to go. Now, Ian did mention at the top of the show, if you have a venue that we can come and bring our guests, that would be lovely.
It'd be nice to get a nice TFI Friday vibe, wouldn't it? In the bar, you know, people enjoying themselves, having a chat with us, and, you know, they can go off and get their chips and then come back again.
Can we go full TFI Friday and have musical guests in a different room?
Oh,
and get them to walk
a few
upstairs
local
to Riverboat
bands.
Song and everything.
Yes, I love the Riverboat Song as well, you know. Yeah, also sponsors. If anybody's fancy sponsoring us, it'd be good if it was somebody, you know, independent from the club as well, because obviously we need a little bit of freedom to say what we want to say. So yeah, if anybody does fancy coming on board as a sponsor, it can be a per show basis, or, you know, we can do a group of shows, whatever people want to do. It'd be great to hear from you. So yeah, get in touch with me and Andy. You'll find us on the various socials, or you can find us on Salisbury Radio's digits and all the rest of it.
Andy at salisburyradio.co.uk.
Perfect. Yeah, give us a shout. Yeah, definitely. It'd be great to get some people involved. And of course, you can come on as a guest.
Then, Ian?
Say again?
Are you on the radio?
I have
never
been.
Mention it.
Not as often as you, but I am on Sunday from 6 till 8 p.m. It's a great show in the evenings. You've listened to it. You listen to it all the time.
I do.
Until you've got to put Olive to bed.
Because I don't watch enough TV.
So yeah, definitely 6 till 8 is a great time. When are you on?
Oh, I'm on weekdays 10 till 2.
10
DAB,
till 2.
smart speakers, online, and on the Salisbury Radio app.
There you go. You can find us
on
there.
Salisbury Gold too, just as an added bonus.
Anyway, back to this podcast. We've plugged.
Shameless plugs.
Thank you so much to everybody for joining us. I think that's about it, isn't it? I think we're good.
That is about it, I think, yeah. We'll do another one of these in a couple of weeks' time. And like we said, if you want to be on it, give us a shout. You know where we are on Facebook, certainly, or tap us up via Salisbury Radio.
Yeah, let us know if you've liked what we've done. Likes and comments and whatever. We're not, you know, we don't get excited about likes, but it's good just to know we're going in the right direction with this. And so yeah, send us your messages and yeah, great to hear from you. And share it, definitely. Thank you very much.
Do that. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Yeah, we're not that bad. Cheers then, Andy. Thank you everybody for listening, and goodbye.